Hi.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining in this evening. Um, still, people are joining in as usual, but we expect to start 7 o'clock. All right. So today's topic is team building. As you know, one of the major things in your entrepreneurial journey, business development, is team building. Right? We do not encourage that you do your business alone. You need to bring in your friends, your colleagues, your seniors, your juniors, experts in certain different parts in your business, maybe finance, maybe tech innovation, business development. Um, these are the pieces in the puzzle. So you need to get experts involved. And we have three resource persons today. Let me share my screen and introduce our speakers today. We have the honor of having these three um, experts today to talk to you, to share their experience, expertise on team building. First of all, I'd like to introduce Dr. Sankalpa Gamwarige. Sankalpa is an innovative digital transformational specialist with 20 plus years of experience in the field. He's a senior leader in Nagarro, which is a major digital product engineering company in the world, and he's also director at Trace and a council member of National Innovation Agency. Prior to these affiliations, he was the general manager, vice president of 24/7, which is one of the leading tech startups in the US and also in Sri Lanka. And he's a graduate of the University of Moratuwa, and he's one of the leaders in the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem development in Sri Lanka. He's an all-rounder. He's playing multiple roles in different forums, almost every forum that we find related to innovation, entrepreneurship, etc. So thank you, Sankalpa, for joining in today and sharing your time and expertise with our first cohort in this program. Then we have Ms. Randula De Silva. Randula is the founder and CEO of Good Life X, which is a startup company in Sri Lanka, and she's a Chevening Fellow at the University of Oxford, UK. And she's a director of Trees. And before that, she was the CEO of Hedge. You may know Hedge, which is one of the premier startup incubators in Sri Lanka. And she was the chief disruptor at GIZ. Don't take this word in the wrong meaning, disruptor. I think some of you guys know what we really mean disruption when it comes to innovation. It is changing the status quo from traditional to modern to be more efficient, more effective using new technologies. So that is the context we are using this word disruptor at GIS Sri Lanka. And he was the head of the information intelligence at Verite Research. And she engages in all these encounters as a catalyst to empower entrepreneurs to positively disrupt the old tradition and transition into a new regenerative economy. And for that, she was awarded the Game Changer of the Year award in 2021. Thank you very much, Pranjula, for joining in today with other experts. And then we have Dr. Prasad Samarasinghe. Prasad is a top-notch business development professional in Sri Lanka. He's the managing director of Lanka Bell, Bell Vantage, Bell Solutions, and he's the chairman of FITIS, the Federation of Information Technology Industry in Sri Lanka. and he also serves at several top managerial positions. And he's also a graduate of the University of Moratuwa, and he earned his PhD from the Australian National University, Canberra, Australia. And his expertise, even though he's a manager right now, his technical expertise in electronics and telecommunication engineering, particularly telecommunications. And he's the present chairman of the Sri Lanka Bluepoint Corporation. So that is the latest hat he's wearing. Thank you, Prasad, for joining me today. So without further ado, let me hand over the proceedings to Sankalpa based on what the three experts have discussed already. And they will share their expertise, knowledge, as I mentioned earlier, on team building. As we go, if you have any questions, you can write everything onto the chat box, and our three experts will check on your questions in the chat room and probably will answer these questions at the right time. All right, Sankalpa, Mandula, and Prasad, it's all yours.
Thank you, Professor Rohan. And first of all, I want to especially congratulate you and your team for starting this phenomenal open knowledge sharing platform. I think one of the first in Sri Lanka to talk about and build the entrepreneurial skills. So I think I'm pretty sure you all had a first inaugural session last week. But today's, I think we would be once again starting, and our topic is startup or team building. So as any entrepreneur, we have to build a team, right? We cannot do things by our own. So just some people think they can do it's just an individual who is doing everything he can make. It may be more like a broker or a deal maker or someone. But I think typically as an entrepreneur, we have to generate wealth, value, and that value should be reflected in the broader spectrum of the society as a positive experience. So this is, I think this is the expectation of an entrepreneur. And before we go into how an entrepreneur can build their own team, let's first start with taking about 1 or 2 minutes about talking a little bit about why it is important to have this entrepreneurial mindset, whether you have started your own business or not. I think Randula, Prasad, do you think that's a more better place for us to start? We'll take about 1 or 2 minutes and set that context. And from there, we can take it, because the entrepreneur word can be used in different manner. Within an organization, we call them intrapreneurs. So someone with that entrepreneurial mindset, we call them a technopreneur. Then someone with social entrepreneur. Likewise, there are different ways, but for each and every person, there's a one thing, common thing. That's what we are going to talk, that entrepreneurial mindset. And a person with entrepreneurial mindset, how he is going to assemble his team, is our topic today. So with that, maybe Randula, why don't you start, share your thoughts, why it is important to have this entrepreneurial mindset, and set the context of what we are going to discuss today.
Sure. Thank you, Sankalpa. And it's such a pleasure to be part of this panel and this session, and to be speaking on this topic. Just like Dr. Sankalpa mentioned, regardless whether we have started our own company or not, anybody, even a public sector employee or as a university student, one can have an entrepreneurial mindset, and that will take us a long way in whatever the projects we do, in whatever the endeavors we do. And when we set a course and set ourselves up to do something with entrepreneurial mindset, we approach solving a problem very differently. We don't look at things the same way. We take a very open approach in solving problems, and very innovative approach, very inclusive approach in solving problems.
Nandula, sorry, Nandula, give me 1 second. Nandula, can all of you go on mute, and only person who is talking be unmute and talk, because there's some echo is coming. So let's all go on mute, and Randula, you can start.
Thank you. Is the echo issue still there, or are we okay? Yeah, okay, great, super. So like I was saying, it really doesn't matter whether you have your own company or not to have entrepreneurial mindset. In fact, it's one of the most important things for us to have as any individual, whether we have our own company or whether we are an employee in somebody else's company, or whether we work for the government, public sector, private sector, or whether we are a student in a university. Having an entrepreneurial mindset will allow us to approach and solve problems in a very different way. If we go into solving a problem or go on to our day-to-day work with the entrepreneurial mindset, we don't look at things the same way and we don't solve problems the same way. Instead, we take a very innovative approach and we see solutions in very uncommon, unapparent connections and dots. And we connect those unapparent things and kind of, build new realities. That's what entrepreneurs do. And making that a commercial venture, taking that to building a business, that then is the entrepreneurial journey of becoming an entrepreneur or creating a sellable product or creating a product or service that can give you financial benefit or social benefit. That's one avenue of an entrepreneur, but that's not the only thing. So having an entrepreneurial mindset, I think, is the most important thing for us, especially as Sri Lankans right now, because we are facing unprecedented times, and that excites entrepreneurs. You wouldn't find an entrepreneur complaining. At this point, we are very excited to really, solve very difficult, very new, very uncommon challenges in very unconventional ways. And when you get about doing that, that's when you need, just like Dr. Sankalpa mentioned, that's when you need a team. You might be an all-rounder, like many entrepreneurs are, but it doesn't mean practically you can do everything all at once by your own. You need to have a team. It can be your family, it can be your friends, it can be your immediate colleagues in the classroom or in the department that you're a part of in a public sector. It can be anybody, but each of those individuals will have a different role to play in your solution or in your venture to finding a solution to a very specific problem. So I think that's the point that we're going to talk about today. I would also like to give to Dr. Sankalpa Prasad, Dr. Prasad also to contribute to this avenue, and then we can move on to the next topic, I think.
Absolutely right, Prasad. I'll tell you, Prasad, you have been always asked to use your entrepreneurial skill to sometimes solve some organizations, some entities, either public or even a private entities, right? Or social entities, which was already about to be closed down. Financially, they were not viable, right? Team motivation was zero, right? But miracles you have done, right? Within short time period, within sometimes 6 weeks, you have suddenly changed the entire ball game. So Prasad, with that experience, right, you have I think you are few batches senior to me, right? And you're one of my own mentors in this space. Please say why you feel this entrepreneurial mindset is important for us to start our rest of the discussion, Prasad. In wherever, if you can quote some of the examples you recently experienced, that would be great, Prasad.
Yeah, thank you, Randul and Sankalpa. The first, I should thank Professor Rohan Munasinghe for inviting us for this discussion. Is true, our subject is team building related to startups or the small companies. And before we talk about the other areas, yes, mindset is very, very important. What will happen, any other company, if you are going to work for a company, you can think about only your department, your section to be perfect. But when you are an entrepreneur, you need the final company to go to the next step. That means whether the one department is doing superbly will not have impact, because ultimately you have to take the entire company forward. But to take the entire company forward, you have to understand keeping all the stakeholders, all the members. It can be family, it can be a close friends, colleague, but whoever is part and parcel of your company should drive your final goals. If it is a small company, the collapsation can be much faster than the big company. If that the team and the mindset is not there together. But in that sense, it is just Sankalpa very important for us to have a real clear mindset when we are doing a business. And when we are working for some other company, we can do a test run and all that. We can fight little bit, but still company will run. But especially for startups, we had to have the synchronization mindset so that everybody should understand where this company is going and what is the important thing, what area they should focus, and all the line items are important, all the departments important, because the department or the section is doing very slow, will have the impact to the entire company. Company will depend on the slowest process more than the fastest process. That means even you take it finance, the finance is not well thought about, the cash flows are not going to be planned, then it will have an entire impact to not to take your next business even. But for you to business to focus, you need the finance well, HR well planned, project management well planned. In that sense, everybody to have a synchronized and a good team, and the mindset is important. Yes, the first point for our today's discussion. Agree, Sankalpa?
Thank you, Prasad. Thank you, Randula, for wonderful background setting, right? Without that entrepreneurial mindset, I think no point we are getting immersing into this particular team building topic. It's all about your entrepreneurial mindset. So let me take a simple word. One with entrepreneurial mindset won't be a part of the problem. He's going to be the part of the solution. That solution is going to build an experience for everyone around him. I think this is what we are going to achieve, right? I think, guys and ladies, gentlemen, whoever you are there, I simply expect, I'm not expecting miracles out of this one, but something, if you can make a very small change in your behavior, when Monday you go to start your work, whatever thing you are doing, your plans after this discussion, I think small change in your thinking, small change in your actions, that can make a big difference. So with that hope, let's get into our structured discussion. And hopefully, or maybe after this session, you would be receiving some form of reading material of what we are going to discuss. We are not going to use any PowerPoint today. The reason is we are going to discuss about our experience. But even though you may find Prasad may take his experience from different entities, if I talk about maybe from as a telecom, maybe from insurance, or maybe from a massive bank to a few banks, or maybe from a couple of biggest non-profit organizations, or maybe as one of the latest, I think, oldest, most impactful those days, government entities, what he's doing. I think we would be taking our practical experience. We are going to share that, but same time, that particular document, what we are going to share with you is going to cover very simple, in simple term, theory. So we have included theory in sense, not rocket science theory, some generic things, which is common to me, Randula or Prasad, or anyone who talks this topic. So we have organized that. So after our discussion, you all can go through it and you can easily find related. So it's a very self-explanatory thing. It has been taken from internet, right? These all points we have taken from internet. You can further Google. And why we are telling you is because we are just, when you know your topics, and we call it how you are going to probe for someone who knows. So our search queries, or in modern terms we call prompts in AI, is based on our experience, and that's all what we did. And we generated that very nicely articulated things on the internet and shared with you, very simple, each and every topic with about not more than a one A4 page type of things. So we would be covering 10 topics today, and I'm not going to go through each and every topic now. Let's start that. Our first the area we want to discuss is a typical team. So we have to build we have given a given to build a team. For example, maybe a depart or maybe a pure startup or whatever thing. There are different roles. So what should be that team composition and what should be the hierarchy? So let me ask Randula to and Prasad to discuss this from two of their angles. Randula, over to you. We can take Randula about 3 to 4 minutes, Randula, and then
Sure.
we'll give about another 3 minutes to Prasad, and we'll move to the other topic. So about 6 minutes we have to discuss this particular topic about team composition, Randula. And Prasad, over to you.
Great. So I'll start with the point of hierarchy, because it's one of my favorite and most disliked words. Favorite because it's a very interesting change that's happening in the world when it comes to hierarchical structures. And least favorite because I am not a person who functions very well in hierarchies. So it's very personal for me. So in the organization that I have built and in the organizations that I work with, which are mostly new age, very entrepreneurial or innovative new organizations. Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, you are very much
okay.
audible.
Okay. The hierarchical structure that we see typically, if we go to a large corporate or we go to a public sector organization, or if you take a look at a university or a ministry, you won't see that kind of a hierarchy in these new age organizations. What do I mean by hierarchy? Hierarchy is an instance where you have a leader or several leaders on top, and where there's a very direct flow of authority and power and reporting structure under that leader. It's almost a very linear step-by-step process like that. You will see the company diagrams like that that are very largely hierarchical, and the decision making is very clear. It's at the top, and reporting structure also is a bottom to top like that, right? In a new age organization or a startup at a starting point, at least in the first 5 years, the hierarchy is rather flat. Which means everybody in the starting point or the starting team is involved in decision making, is involved in have a equal and equal say and equal amount of power and decision making abilities to craft and change the course of the organization and how it's going to move forward. And even in large organizations, when they're at a point of transformation or transition, I'm sure Prasad can speak more on that. The hierarchy becomes rather flat at that point to make that transition happen, at least in the core team that makes that transition happen, right? But even in a flat hierarchy organization, there are specific designated roles that each person plays. Those are specialized roles. There's a founder and a CEO. Usually, if we take a startup who's responsible for the paperwork. I mean, even in our organization, when the hierarchy is super flat, I don't act as a CEO in a team room. And when we are there, I still have to sign the documents. I still have to be responsible, liable legally, and I'm the person who's the signatory as a CEO to the banks, right? I can't dilute that power legally. So while that is there, there's also a CFO. There is somebody who is a financial figurehead who's there to make projections and help decision making easy for us in the financial spectrum of the company. And also you have the technical side of things. If it's a software development company or if it's a technological company, there's a CTO. If it's a non-tech company, still whatever the core competency of the organization that is selling, there is somebody who leads that core competency within that team. And then you have, as in any organization, the marketing, the HR, right? Those are things that will be there in any kind of entity, whether it's a social entity, non-for-profit, government, and then the front line, the customer support that can be built into marketing and sales, and the business development and the legal. So those are the core core departments or people, figureheads in an organization, whether it's hierarchical or not. Sorry, took a little bit extra time, but I'd like to hand over to Prasad to us.
Actually, Randra, my experience is whether we have a 1 person or the 10 people or 400 people, the role will remain. Say, assuming you start a the boutique, maybe a vegetable sales place, but still you have to do all these roles. And the roles and the hierarchies are different. Because of the roles, I think even the startup should understand, and whatever the roles you are good in and you are not good in. So if you are not good in finance, I think you have to find a consultant or do something. Because otherwise, that role gap will have a huge impact on your future. The next point is when you are recruiting more and more people, 1 person can handle normal theories, maximum 20 people. And if you have more than 20 people who report to you, just because of you want to create a flat structure, you will end up with the unwanted time wasting, and then what you're supposed to do versus just a waste of time with managing people. In that sense, definitely you have to create a hierarchy. And when you create a hierarchy, say assuming you have a sales manager and the people who are reporting to sales manager, just because of you have a flat structure, if you're going to talk to all the sales guys, then what will happen? You are bypassing your sales manager. One way you're asking sales manager to bring a business and cover the company requirement and achieve the budget. Other side, if you are going to, just because of your door is open, you are a CEO, you are a founder, anybody can talk to you. When they started, especially in the culture like Sri Lanka, if they are going to bypass the sales manager, the sales guy will directly report to you. Then again, the structure will not work. But whenever you give it to a structure, but I'm sure even any big size company will not need the traditional way like a 7-8 hierarchy level. Maybe 3-4 maximum they can do it. But still, my point of view, when you are recruiting more and more people, there's a limit you can do flat. But you should understand the level, you should go to the structural level or the hierarchy. And when you make a hierarchy and give the manager to a manager role, but if you are going to make it hierarchy and try to do a flat structure, I think you are in a two world is somewhere can have a collapse. And if I have time, I can talk more, Sankalp, otherwise can move to the next point. My summary is the flat structure or the hierarchical structure is depend on the number. If the number is too much, and don't try to do flat structure. Just because of the open door policy, don't try to control everybody directly, then you are just bypassing the middle layers. And whenever you are talking to them, better to bring the manager and keep in front of him and do it, or copy to him, or have some sort of a rule within the company so that they will not feel they are bypassed. They will not try to move out from their responsibility.
So I think Prasad very well said. I think both points are very valuable. So what Prasad meant, and I will tell, so Randula, I think you could have been talking from the team sizes of maybe 30, 40, 50. And I think when it's growing to a few thousands, yes, I think since I'll tell you, a company where I'm part, I think we don't have a CEO on top. He calls himself is a custodian of entrepreneurship of the organization, right? Because we hide designations. But as Randula said, he is responsible to the, we are a public company listed at the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, world fourth largest, biggest stock exchange in the world. And a lot of, Germany is the most, have the lot of constraints and rules compared to even US and other rest of the world. They are one of the most strictest rules-based country. So we have to adhere to all these things. So even though he claims he is flat, he can be accessible, he gives the authority to a lot of people, but he's responsible, as Randula said. And how we as a 20,000 company, we have created a organizational culture in that we explicitly mention we are non-hierarchy because it's a mindset. But as Prasad said, It doesn't mean all 20,000 are they going to straight away talk to? No, it doesn't happen, because around different functions or business or capabilities, we have created groups. We call, in our sense, that 20,000 people are being put it into about 30 different global business units. Each and every global business unit is led by a very experienced expert person, right? So this 20,000 people's total revenue is 1 billion, close to 1 billion US dollars. And typically, I think one of these business units revenue comes to around between 10 million to 100 to 150 million. So that's sort of variations are there in our business units. Within those business units, we practice the non-hierarchy mindset, but it doesn't mean each and every person chaotically doing that. So we make sure people can raise voice, people can talk, but we have to make sure there's a set of values where, as Prasad said, people are otherwise going to bypass, and people are people. They would come and tell, okay, not the good side of this equation, the bad side. So culturally, you need to eliminate those things. And then leaders, we are going to designate someone to be the responsible leader, and we are making sure he is having that non-hierarchical mindset. So non-hierarchical mindset doesn't mean he cannot get away from the responsibility, but he's a guy who is empowering others to do things. If they are failing, he goes and supports them. So what we believe in the modern organizations, as Prasad said, even though it says non-hierarchy, yeah, there should be a way of organizing things for better management. Otherwise, it would be big chaotic. But still that mindset, because there can be some companies only you have 5 people, but one say, I'm the boss, I'm not cleaning or whatever thing. So my role, how I define as it's been shown, if anything, I tell them I'm the caretaker. So I'm the caretaker of South Asia, co-caretaker. If anything goes wrong, yeah, it's my responsibility. I cannot put the finger to someone and say, because I cannot pass the ball or pass the responsibility. But they expect in non-hierarchy cultures for us to delegate and empower people. I think that's the biggest difference. So with that, I think let's go to the team integrity and sustainability. Prasad, I think it's the same topic we are taking, right? Because as a team, that team integrity is very important. Prasad, please go ahead.
The one question asked from the chat box.
Yeah,
do you have name role like CEO, CTO, CWO position in the beginning? Currently, in my core team, we don't have a designation like this. We call ourselves co-founders of the company. We all take decisions together, and if someone has more experience in a specific area, the person will handle that area. We started our company a few months ago, and there are 4 co-founders. Do I have to assign my co-founders a specific role in the beginning? Or can I take more time and assign them?
It's like this, Prasad. My personal feeling is, if the 4 co-founders are having the same background, I think then you need to figure it out some form of, because if all 4 are just software engineers, right? But still there are other functions you need to do, right? Someone can focus and do those things. You don't have to give designations. So I think we agree, right, Prasad? It's not about designation, but there's a role, right?
At least function level, yeah, function level responsibility should be there.
Exactly, because then you cannot expect all 4 to be responsible for all financing, but they are and all 4 to be responsible in the same architecture. So likewise, so some responsibility has to be I think segregated. Give them the account, because accountability should be there, right, Prasad? In this integrity equation, I think we can take the same thing here. They should be accountable for whatever things that.
I'm keen to take this integrity and sustainability, but I think hope we address your question and Sanjana Vandana. And this team integrity and sustainability is a good example. My recent appointment to a government organization with 700 staff. But I took that as a completely new challenge. I went and met the key management team. But instead of everybody's thinking, I mentioned to them, I trust everybody from day one. I think that is something we are lacking in Sri Lanka, especially South Asian countries. We mistrust everybody from the beginning. And what I mentioned is I trust everybody from the beginning till you all do something wrong. In that sense, I'm not listening all the history, all these things, but let's work together and drive our final objective. But initially, I had like 50 million revenue gaps. And like Sankalpa mentioned, within 6 weeks, we had a chance to reach that actually. This month we became a break-even company. It's not easy at all, but actually if I start with the mistrusting people, these fellows are rogue, they will not do, they will come and sign and go out. But that means take the same example to your partner. You are signing a marriage and you are mistrusting from day one, what will happen? More than the other partner, you will suffer from day one. You are wasting a lot of time on checking all these and driving. But in that sense, everybody is good. The trust initially. I'm sure the developed countries or maybe Europeans are thinking the same way more than the Asians. And in that sense, whatever you do, even the startup, I think if you are not sure about the trust from the beginning, and better not to start. But if you feel it, somebody is not sync with the team, and it's better not to start the company unless you all are trusting each other and driving and keep the same understanding among the co-founders. And otherwise, what will happen instead of the company taking to the next height, and you always lot of time mistrusting each other, and then things are going to be much more waste. It's better to go and work for somewhere in that sense. And if you're going to start a company, if you're going to be a businessman, entrepreneur, then you have to think more on the final results, not like the silos, not like a sections, so that if everybody to work together, only the company will go to the next level. In that sense, I think trust, integrity is very, very important, especially for startup. Even for bigger company to be success, I think that link has to be there. Sankar.
Thank you, Prasad. Randula, why don't you focus more about your favorite topic, sustainability? And I don't know whether even the new term we are coining, you're coining the regenerative organization, even that term, if possible, in a team, if possible, please explain to them and discuss. So we'll take, Randula, both the integrity, sustainability, and internal team environment, all three topics together. Please take take the internal team environment also along with the same discussion, Randula.
Sure. Since you touched on the word regenerative, I mean this is a term that's used in agriculture or waste management. Typically, how does it apply to a normal business? How does it apply to any business that's not in agri and waste? That's our latest challenge. That's the latest thing that we have taken on. And actually, I find myself describing people who have been in my team previously, people who are in my team now, who I interview for new positions. There's one thing, there's one matrix that has come into the picture as a new thing. Is this going to be extractive or regenerative? I find myself asking that question. Is this person only there to take and take? Are they only bothered to ask what's my take-home salary, what are the perks, what are the holidays, when are the appraisals done, and how often do I get a raise? Or is this person also going to add value to the company? And what is that value that they're going to add? Is it going to be a tick boxing mentality of just doing, okay, this is what's in my TOR, this is what's in my job description, I'm going to do this, and these 10 things, and that's it? Or is this person going to create further value and going to help us up our game in the market and up our game in introducing new products and services, and really, make us a superpowered company? So that for me is a regenerative employee who is going to add. Yes, please.
If somebody is asking everything, how do you make them to the other way? if somebody is coming and asking all these take home, and how do you make them to the other person?
That's a challenge. That's a challenge, and that is through the culture. Some people are convertible, some people are not. And that is a judge of character, that and it's a gamble sometimes that we take. But in the first 3 months, they show the colors, whether this is a possibility or whether I'm actually running behind an unachievable target of trying to change this person. Usually it is, it's possible. It's possible through the team environment and the culture and the minds of what others emanate. When others you're surrounded with a team that is giving back and is constantly striving to create value and not just to tick boxes, I have seen people change as well. But sometimes they fall back into the same mentality of saying and wanting to just, sit back in their chair and only do what they are meant to do, and that's it. And those type of people are just not the right fit for a company that is growing in their early stages. A mature company, maybe you just want to, maintain the same status quo and remain
even
stable.
Even mature company, one key reason for failure is that, Randala.
Yeah,
and you see
that's right.
the good qualified person, exceptionally good, but no value addition to the company.
Exactly.
They are only to themselves, not for the company. That's a real failure
Exactly.
for the company.
Exactly. And shifting that is a true challenge, and I think that is in the hands of the leadership also, to see how do we harness the culture and how do we harness that person's capabilities so that they generate more value than just to take things back and keep taking. So that happens in a team environment, and we have multiple diverse individuals working in our team. We are a business consultancy inherently. We work with entrepreneurs, and we have civil engineers to chemical engineers working with us. Very different technical expertise and background that they have worked in, but they're plugging their expertise into the service offerings that we have now, and they stay back in the company. And they want to continue to grow because of this very different environment that we have created. So once you emanate that kind of a company culture, more and more like-minded people come into the company. That is what we are experiencing now. I think the first 3 years, it was difficult for us. We got the typical kind of job applications, but now the best kind of people really are leaving sometimes where they are in the other part of the world and coming to Sri Lanka to work with us because we emanate a culture like this. So it gets better with time if you stick to the integrity of who you are and your core values as a company and emanate that through your team. So that is how we have built it so far.
Wonderful, Randula. So I think very clearly, as Randula, I think, let me start from where Randula, I think, finished, right? And how, because when the Nagarro is operating in 35 countries and having by now almost 20,000 people. But one thing we try to do was, there are certain streams, I think, which are having more than 26 years of long history. But we made sure before we integrate all these different entities back in 2020, before going into public, we made sure the one common organization culture is very well created. We define our culture and make sure those we call the guardians of the culture is being established. So guardians. The guardians cannot be hierarchical. There should be guardians in each and every level. For example, now someone is very junior in terms of the years of experience. I think they are get connected with their own age, right? So around them, there should be guardians. There should be guardians or role models or the leaders who would make sure the company culture is being intact. In order to do that, we need to make sure the organization purpose, what's our purpose? People can say it can be written as a vision or mission, whatever the manner, or for you can have a very simple tagline or mantras they can say. I think there are different dialogues, whether you need to have a mantra or a tagline you should focus, or vision or mission. But end of the day, all these things should make sure they are not going to two different directions, but for the same end organization. What is the purpose that should be achieved? Along with that, your organization, each and every organization, their own different core values, right? To make sure that organization sustainability, integrity, move forward thing has that core values has to be defined, and then that has to be reinforced over and over, both positively and negatively. Negative reinforcement is someone breaks, you need to make sure, irrespective of his level, you cannot simply tolerate and entertain, right? So, for example, say if I am the CEO, one of my good friends, for him, I think he breaks the organized core important values. Simply because he's my friend, I cannot change that. Either I have to get him out, or he has to apologize and he has to do a genuine change. Otherwise, this organization cannot move forward. And that is the way, right? Then there can be some young people, very junior people, right? They have actually gone extra miles to demonstrate that organization core values. I think they should be very much positively recognized. And most likely, those people with those very positive core values and contribution for organizational growth, value creation should be very much recognized. And you need to have a model for, we call that accelerated growth program, right? Accelerated growth program. And your education mechanism, training, learning, and training mechanism, team building, team sustainability. I think even yesterday, when I was trying to reach out to Randula, you all were in your team building exercise, right? There are different ways. In addition to your day-to-day break, you have to have a breakout and do further bonding likewise. So those are the, I guess, things we can use to have very sustainable positive internal organizational environment, which can make sure the team integrity and sustainability is intact. Am I correct, Randula?
Absolutely, yes. It's the most important thing, I think, to a company.
So, Randula, I think we even though we covered about only three topics, I think that was a more core of bulk of our entire discussion. We have taken good almost close to 50 minutes. We
Yes.
have about another 40 minutes. We'll check with our audience whether they need to take a small 2 minutes break before we go into the other topics. Do you need to take a quick 2 minutes bathroom break or something? So we'll give you 2 minutes because it's 7:48. We'll go into the next set of topics, very interesting topics, talking about board of directors, shares and ownership, and how revenue in a team, how we are going to share revenue, profit sharing. I think that is the next set of cluster of topics we are going to take. So you have 2 minutes. Let's once again, we'll continue to be there. Those who want to take a bathroom break or whatever thing, take a sip of water, come back, I think, in another 2 minutes time. Shall we start? I think Prasad. So next topic is Prasad. I think Randula Board of Directors. So this is how I would like to take this approach, this topic. Since Prasad is sitting on many public listed companies boards as well as government boards and massive non-hierarchy organizations, massive different non-profit organizations like FITIS board and TRACE board, all these things. We'll first ask Prasad to describe what is the, because he's part of, there's something called Directors Association or something, right? Where they train these public company directors. So we'll start from what is the role of a board of directors in public and these private listed big companies. And then, Randula, I would like you to talk about, because that role, it may not be, there's still that responsibility, right? Even in a small company, and when you are registering, there should be a board of directors, or the directors has to be, and their responsibility even in a small company. I think if you can touch that part, I think that would be ideal. So with that, Prasad, can you first start with giving an introduction about the role of a board member in a big company, and hand it over to Randula for the rest of the discussion?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. The current Sri Lankan situation, if it is a public quoted company or not, earlier scenario, the board directors are responsible only what they know. Say you are an engineer, you are responsible only engineering side. If you are accountant, you are responsible only the finance side. But the company law change it. If you are a board director, you are responsible for everything. But one simple point is, even a staff, EPF, ETF not paid during your directorship time, and they can go to, even though it's a limited liability company, they can go to and take it from the director's personal assets. That is the law in this country. Because of that, even a small company or the big company, if somebody is going to take the directorship, you have to be very careful on the compliance point of view and tax point of view. Especially EPF, ETF, there's no way you can move out. And if the company is going to terminate, close it, then there are responsibility will come for gratuity and the terminal benefit. There are, as per the Company Act, if you are a director, you have done a reasonable effort to not to happen that, then you are out from that equation. Otherwise, you are responsible for your personal money even. In that sense, is that today as the board of directors is really a risky position. And just because of you invited, nobody will come. And just because of somebody invited you, you also should not accept unless you go through the company and see the situation, especially see the EPF, ETF compliance and analyze it and then see it. There are people who are part of the companies and they duplicate the treasury bond, 4 billion treasury bond twice. And all these directors, they are even the foreign trips banned. Their passport cancelled temporarily, but it lasts almost more than 6-7 years. In that sense, you have to be very careful whenever you are taking a directorship. Similar way, whenever you are a startup company, whenever you are going to invite for a good reputed people to come on board, and then you have to keep them more visibility, then only you can get the real output to your companies. And especially compliance and regulatory and taxes. Whatever the business you are doing, you will be part of the regulatory framework. And that regulatory framework is another important thing for directors to know. And then only you can get or find a correct directorships and get the real output to your company.
Wonderful,
Yes,
Prasad. Randula, over to you. So probably you can take it from more startup companies, because you have been as a GLX, you are helping many companies to start this business, and for them in the registration process, all these point of view as a small company, they are the role of a board of directors in that sense, and then share and ownership point of view, if you can touch, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, Prasad already touched on what Prasad touched on is relevant even to a company that is starting up or at a very nascent or a small stage. The compliance point of view and also the responsibility of everything that happens within a company is going to be in the hands of the directors. So at a point of registering a company, if you're registering as a private limited company, you are bound to appoint directors. It can be a one-person company. You can be the only director there, or you can appoint other directors. And those other directors can be shareholders or not. Just because they're a director does not mean that they're a shareholder. Those are two different things. Some at the point of registering a company thinks everybody who's a shareholder is a director. That's not true. And neither is everybody who is a director is a shareholder. Those are two different things. Directors can be appointed by the founders for having a good direction for the company, a good course, a strong course for the company and for the reputation of the organization, and for good advisory and counsel. And some of those positions are voluntary, directors, and some are also remunerated for the directorship. There's a director fee involved as well, and those are completely up to the company and up to the directors who are going to take on those positions to negotiate and come up to agreement. But if you're a director, that means you're going to be registered as a director of that company and are liable to the decisions that are going to be taken into the by the company, whether you're a shareholder director or not, or whether you're just a director or non-executive director, right? So those are the things to keep in mind. And when it comes to shares and ownership, this is where the company, when you formulate a company and when you formulate the company as a private limited company, who is going to really be putting in the capital and owning the company and the shares, and how are you going to distribute that shares, and how you make that decision on day one will also impact how you're going to take in a new investor, take in a new shareholder in future. All right. So sometimes it's a single person company, and that means 100% shares are under your name. And in future, if you want other people who will bring in investment or bring in new knowledge or new opportunities for you to enter into markets and whatnot, you can then look at giving out equity or shares to those people. And at that point, I think a huge mistake a lot of entrepreneurs do at nascent stages is give out a huge amount of shares for very small amount of investment. 2 million rupees, you give 15%, 30% equity or shares without even knowing what your future value of the company is going to be. I think something very important you need to keep in mind is never go beyond 5 to 7% at the early stages of a company. And look at what really the value these other shareholders or investors are bringing in for you to give out equity and have watertight agreements. Those are very important things too. Yes. Yeah.
Assuming somebody has a 51%, can he change the entire board of the company?
Entire board of the company. I think it's in the
actually any company is the voting will happen individually. If somebody is getting a majority vote, he can be a director. Even when the renewal comes, he has to go out if he is going to lose it. That means if somebody owns 51%, actually can control the entire company from every point of view. Yeah. But sometimes you will not be able to do within a second. But sometimes you have to wait for a few months to go to the next term. But ultimately, if somebody owns 51 means he owns the entire control.
Control, yeah, exactly. And there are also some people who comes in. That's what I said. It's in the. I'm losing the word right now.
You mean article?
Articles of association. Some articles of association of the companies at the formulation itself, you intently put in clauses where that can't happen. Where certain times the chairman has a right over the majority shareholder or with the extra vote or whatever it is. But those are very intently put in and usually are not there in normally ordinary articles of association that's put out at the get-go by any
I know that
company.
one
So if you
university.
want to,
I know that one
Yes.
university, 2 directors is a lifetime
Yes.
directors.
yes,
And but still they can, there are ways they can remove them
exactly.
actually.
Yes. Yeah. So those are things, I mean, we just sign papers because these are legal things and we don't know. But these are things to pay attention to when we are formulating a company and distributing shares and appointing directors, because these can decide the future of our company. When we have the annual general meetings and, go on to the company secretarial things that we will do on an annual basis.
So adding to Prasad's point and Ramdula's point, so article is written. So article can be Prasad changed with the majority voting power, right? So that's a simple thing. So that's a simple theory. If even though article says this manner, if the majority voting power means they can change, override the article and they can execute, right, Prasad? And Prasad, are there
Yeah, but
any?
always, Sankalpa, when you are taking a company, even a startup, and the 51% can take, even say you start a company, you own 40%. Say if somebody get together owns the 51%, they can remove you. I think that is something happened even to Steve Jobs. I know somebody is recently also similar thing happened. Who is the founder guy who started the company. The
Yeah.
new ownership asked him to go. The reason when you are losing 51%, then you should understand you are losing the entire control. Even though initially you are not seeing the 51 as a one slot, it can be two slots, but you have to analyze whether these two slots can work together. If they work together, they can control the company. That is something I feel the startup should understand from the beginning. In that sense, the Randula's point is correct. Whenever you are diluting, dilute 5%, 10%. Don't start diluting 20, 30%. Then you are going to lose entire control. And from the board point of view, identifying a correct people, identify experienced guys, taking into the board, the company valuation will go high. And the public will trust the company. And whatever the projection you are putting, and if you want to make it IPO, those things, it will be really valuable. But the startup mindset is they know everything, and then no point in finding experienced people to the board. But a startup mindset is to always listening and change in their way, then finding a real resources for the board, I think is a real valuable. That depend on your culture, depend on the way you think. Some people are thinking they know everything, they want to run the way they want, they don't want somebody to touch it. Then finding a director in the similar level is better, or being the same co-founders in the board is okay. But if they feel it's to add the value to the company and the day to go to IPO and public to trust, I think then it's better for you to find the correct resource from the country and then make them correct directors.
Fantastic. Prasad, how about any specific, I think you all have already touched about shares and ownership part, right? Both of you. Hence, can I skip that one and move to the how to revenue or profit or whatever thing shares, and how do you have, what sort of mechanisms for these uh, people who are, some of our founders may be working, right? That sort of things, how they should be get compensated, how the compensation is should be accounted, and what parts they can be compensated through shares. There are different things, right, Prasad? For example, I think we are defining the say share capital total, what it's called, 100,000 or say 1,000 shares. It doesn't mean you have to issue all 1,000 shares, right, Prasad? Maybe you can just issue 2 shares.
Yeah.
So likewise, there are different. Can you touch about that? How are you going to use this shares as a way of giving return and all these things, Prasad? What I meant is a reward. So rewarding and remuneration, shares, that profit, dividend, that part, if you all can touch a little bit, that would be great. You and Randula.
Yeah, startup better for them to have maybe co-founders or core team to give them some sort of a value from the company as well. then they will not work only for the salary, they will work for the future values. It can be a superbly exponential return to everybody. But in that sense, you can define allocation and taking that out. And there are so many rules you can put it. Say, the one good example, I was working at a bank, and the bank allocate the shares, but for me to take that share out, I had to work another 4 years. That allocation happened based on the performance. Actually, I got the highest grading 3 years, but I had to wait 4 years to encash it. But unfortunately, end of 3 I moved out from that bank, and the amount I miss is so many millions of rupees. But because of I'm so mathematically good, I put all the future value and negotiate with the company I moved. And instead of waiting 4 years and take that cash out, I converted that and got it from the new company. But not that easy, but somehow it worked. May not be a perfectly equal figure, but actually some sort of a. But if you don't know, that will be a problem. But that kind of scenario putting into the staff and the shareholders or founders, but the long-term sustainability of that company will remain. And the people really work hard like everybody's company for the future. In that sense, ESOP, employee share option schemes, are very good things actually. And to convert the staff to owners and drive the company in an exceptionally exponentially way is very good actually. But there are tools, but that you have to understand before you maybe announce. Because if you are going to announce it today and give the shares today, and if they can sell it tomorrow, then there will be a problem. But you can put a restriction, even they can sell it to the existing owners only. Then, like I mentioned, the 51% issue will not arise because they will not be able to sell it to outsiders. There are restrictions you can put it, but if it is not a public quoted company, public quoted company is known rules are there. You can't define lot and you have to adhere to whatever existing rules. But if it is not a public quoted company, certainly you can put your rules and drive it. And those are nice tools to take your company forward. And always is the transparency is important and fairness is important. Otherwise, what will happen? People morale will kill. Then again, it will be a negative to your company future.
Fantastic, Prasad. And I know personally some of the great talents, some known companies they lost, right? I think they were keep on delaying introduction of the ESOPs schemes, right? And there's a time period because we have to understand it's you have built the great products, everything, but there's a timing, right? Some of these things to get really move forward. So until then, you need to hold it. But for you to hold these people hope in such a scenarios, issuing of employee share options, it's a big thing, right? As Prasad said, you can add different interesting process, but make sure a lot of I know great successful I think entrepreneurs, they don't know how to share the ownership. It doesn't mean you need to dilute it, but giving a sense of ownership to your team, I think that is very important. Maybe Randula, you can touch a little bit about that, and then move to the importance of advisors and mentors having in a startup company, please.
So, yeah, I think Prasad and Sankalp also touched on shared ownership very well. That's how our company is built. Anybody who is a regenerative employee who's there for more than 18 months gets to own shares of the company. But the most important thing is transparency and fairness. We can't do this in ad hoc ways. There needs to be structures. There needs to be standards on how this is done, and that needs to be applied across the board so that everybody gets the same benefit and the same outcome if they perform the way that's
Randula, there's
beneficial
a
for the company.
question. Can you explain employee share scheme again? Employee share scheme again.
That's the ESOP, right? I think that's the ESOP you mentioned.
Yeah, somebody was. Sankalpa can explain again.
maybe Prasad, you are the expert. I think ESOP, the scheme, I think there are lots and lots of different varieties, right, Prasad? You cannot very simply, at the interest of the time, we cannot explain to you in detail. But if you have any more detailed things, you can reach out to us.
Yeah,
We can share you a little bit. I think there are different experts. ESOP.
simply, Sankalpa, simply the staff can get shares based on performance, but there are so many restrictions you can put it to make sure that performance is a continuous performance. Otherwise, you can take the annual performance and give a shares then and there, so that their valuation and value addition will not retain. In that sense, I mentioned the example of my old bank, and what they had done is for you to allocate, you have to perform well, but that allocation to encash, you have to wait another 4 years at the same place. And there are tools you can make use to the company to take it to high, and people to feel they own the shares, but they will not be able to take it out unless they cover the other conditions. And a lot of varieties on ESOP, the employee share options, which you may use to take the company to the next level actually. Okay, Sankar.
And Prasad, if it's a public company, I think you may have to work with a third party ESOP fund managers, and there are a lot of restrictions depending on the type stock you are working on, and there are, because they have insider information, and those ESOP schemes, even though you are eligible to now sell and make a profit, but you have time periods called
Inside
yeah,
information.
with the what is
inside
called Prasad, blackout time periods. Yeah, you cannot operate before inside the time period. Usually 1 month before the public these things or special event happens. So likewise, there are a lot of rules. This is a very complicated and more, it takes a lot of time. Just if you want to implement it, don't ad hocly do that. Just get the advice from someone, right, and do it appropriately. Otherwise, these ESOP schemes can backfire you. But same time, sometimes when you are progressing, sometimes we keep on, because we may be fearful to lose our control, and hence we delay these things. That also have another massive repercussions. You to lose
good opportunity to give a good share to the staff, Sankalpa. When the startup company can't give the high salary, and giving the company valuation, and the share will be the very good tool to motivate them.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are small things, Sankalpa, founder. If you are opening a company, and you can keep some founder shares. I know the team in Sri Lanka created a bank in outside Sri Lanka, and what they have done is they have done the complete feasibility report, everything, and they have done the formation of the bank, and the majority investors came from Singapore, and they got a 15% share of that company as a founder share. They didn't put even money, even a cent to get that 15% share. Only the concept can have a value, but surely you have to convince that value to the shareholders or the new investors. If the investors believe that taking that is a valuable, then they will agree. That kind of thing called the founder equity or the founder shares. The concept has a power. Whenever you do a startup, just because of you put 100 rupee and don't value the same way, and the concept also has a value, and the founder will have a value separated by founder shares. That those things, I think the startup should understand those. There are a lot more the concepts, ideas to convert into rupee and cents.
Wonderful.
Or
And
something.
Randula, can you briefly touch on about the importance of having advisors and mentors for a startup company, please?
Yeah, definitely. It could come in, I mean, advisors and mentors can come in form of board of advisory that's separate to the directors. Or it can be merely mentors or sector experts who come in as advisors to support the growth of the company and the course of the company. But since we're talking about the specifically the team, beyond advising the business and its course and the way forward, we can also allocate separate advisors and mentors for specific team members, which can be a huge motivation factor and added advantage for them to remain within the company, to have access to that mentorship and to have access to that advisory capacities, because they are in this company, they have access to these kind of mentors. And these kind of mentors can be from within the company or from outside the company. And that is completely depending on your network and your culture and what you're facilitating as a team culture and environment. And it can have both these facets, but it will allow external industry knowledge and very versatile knowledge to come into the company, because these advisors and mentors have seasoned experience and they believe in your vision and they believe in the solution that you're building, and they're willing to give this mentorship and advisory for you and for your team. Now you might be an entrepreneur with a great idea, and you might think you might be able to do it on your own. But when you go out there to put your ideas to action, the challenges and the bottlenecks that we meet on a day-to-day basis when we are doing things practically is very different to what an idea is in your head. And it makes sense to speak to people who have been there and done it before. We can make the learning curve a lot more shorter. And it's not only for the founder, these advisors and mentors are relevant, it's relevant to the team as well. So making those things accessible is also a huge way to build a team together and to motivate them to give back to the company.
And not only that, some advisors and mentors can be used as a very valuable feathers on the hat of the organization. And I know, I think it's fine for me to mention because it's a very positive thing. That time Millennium IT, who had the fantastic fastest stock exchange, and some of they are called the fixed financial interoperable transactions. So it is a protocol. Straight away you get it. They use the hardware accelerators to decode rather than taking through software models. I think they were focused and they built that fastest platform. And doing that, they hired one advisor mentor. His name is Tenenbaum. Tenenbaum is being considered as the father of the modern operating systems. If any of you all have done computing and if you learned, you could have done. So I'm talking 20 years ago, that time, the main big Bible book on operating system, right, theories is from Tenenbaum, and networking principles book was from Tenenbaum. So imagine, right, someone like that. So Tenenbaum's name is known to everyone. Imagine Tenenbaum, because the Millennium IT was a Colombo-based company and they had the fantastic things, but all the markets were top leading places. It's all about the places where billions of dollar worth companies are being traded. So they need to have that sort of a figures in the company. So that's another way you can boost your company image, having that sort of mentors and advisors. This is one classic example how a Sri Lankan company hired such a advisory from a Scandinavian nation. He's one of the greatest people. So with that, I think we have 11 more minutes. We'll try to wrap up everything within time, right? That's the one important part of the entrepreneurs, right? So you get whatever time you need to finish it. So within next 11 minutes, I think we can talk about the rest of our entire thing all together. So how we can keep the passion, commitment of our teams. So with that passion, commitment, we need to retain that skill, and how our company culture can benefit that. So over to you, Randula, first, and then to Prasad.
Sure. I mean, all that we have discussed from the beginning today to now distills at one point. It is the company culture. We can have as many as HR manuals as we want. We can have as many as, hard-coded practices and shareholderships as we, but if it's not ingrained into the company culture to portray commitment, to portray mutual growth, then we'll fail regardless of how great our policies are if we don't actionize that. So how do we harness a culture of commitment? How do we harness growth? That starts from the leadership all the way to the most junior employee. And that is in how we practice our day-to-day work, how our meetings are conducted, how we are greeting each other, how kind of communication tools we are using within organizations. All these things impact organizational culture. And one thing that I have experienced in my previous role in GIZ, I think Professor Rohan mentioned, talked a little bit about my role as disruptor. One thing that I did in that stint was moving away the local team from email culture to Slack culture. And that changed a lot of things. It opened up everything to a very transparent system of channels. Slack is a open source software. It's free to use for anybody up to a certain amount of users. The team was small enough for us to use a free platform. And a very toxic culture where people were behind closed doors, where gossip was, promoted or was happening, was suddenly eliminated because everything was transparent and everybody could see how everybody else was doing the work. So sometimes the solutions are in very simple places. And it mostly starts with communication. So being transparent, having open door policy, or going beyond cubicles. Most of the modern offices right now does not have cubicles for a reason. To have a very open culture where people are felt equal and can contribute and co-create equally. How do you design your offices? All these things fall into the category of culture and how the culture is harnessed. And then how you intently build meetings and systems and processes into your weekly routine, where teams get to not only work, but share and co-create. It can be lunch breakout talks. It can be sports games night happening every month. We have a games night happening every Tuesday, once a month, where people just come in, all experts working across the country comes into our office and play board games. That harnesses a very growth-oriented culture, very competitive, but still a very friendly growth-oriented culture, where we support each other in our growth and not have a cutthroat way of going about growth. It's a very different kind of phenomena that we can create if you approach the culture topic differently.
Wonderful, Randula. And Prasad, what are your final thoughts? I think we have, I think we need to give about 2 minutes to Professor Rohan. So we have another about 3-4 minutes. What are your final thoughts, Prasad, or what we discussed around company culture and team building?
About the culture came to my mind. Actually, one company was superb in the sales. They were talking very nicely about the technology and all that with the sales team. I thought taking the entire sales team, I can do the similar way at my company. And even I recruited half of them and nothing happened. The reason is actually they are fitted with that culture. Their performance, everything depend on the environment as well. Just because of you see from outside, one guy is doing wonders and just taking him to outside, I don't think it will work. The reason is purely because of the company culture. They are very good in that environment, doesn't mean they are good in other environment. Even though we like it or not, every and each, the whole company has their inherent cultures. Just because of the CEO change or the top change also will not change the culture. But unless you understand the culture and you go as a CEO and to change a little bit, certainly you can do it, but not overnight. In that sense, is the startup better for you to start from day one? If the culture, the key component, maybe a time management is another one. The way you treat people, another one. And there are so many things. I'm sure a startup can define early and educate everybody and then build it. And the respect is another one. And all these things will go a long way. And if you believe that, and the building from day one will be helpful for you to make it exponential company in the future. And I'm sure the team building, the end of the day, the staff is the main asset of any company. Any startup, any big company, any small company, the human resource is the main resource. But that is something you can't predict. Even though I don't think even the AI plus will be able to predict the people. It is very different. The today's face is different, tomorrow the reaction is different. In that sense, it's very challenging. And keeping the team and understanding it, same solution will not work for tomorrow. And drive your startup in that sense, and you will be able to harness lot in the future.
Thank you, Prasad. And let me add two things by myself rather than giving it to you all. I think I couldn't properly earlier introduce. So whenever you are building your team, there are certain times you have to spin off teams. Be mindful there's a term called spin-off because you find that team is have to let them go alone. So don't worry, let them take their own path and let them go. That's called spin-off. Same time, there are scenarios you feel you cannot grow alone. You need to figure it. As Prasad said, he bet on a wrong horse for that we call the acquisition or merge or whatever thing. But very important part is when you are doing that, you need to make sure they psychologically, culturally fit, because Nagarro is a company already been, we have been continuously acquiring every year at least 3 companies, historically, now close to 20 plus companies acquired. I think we know they have a talent. Obviously, we look into what's the new market values they are going to bring, technology skill sets, or whatever the new customer base, something. That part is obvious. But before we conclude our acquisition or whatever the deal, merger, we make sure 2 of us have the cultural fit together. So in our organization, it is very simple. We have defined, end of the day, we have to understand they are humans. So I'm going to tell you a universal set of values. If you can keep within your organization, you can anytime easily find another similar time. You can be actually married and go together. Simply make sure you are human first company. Your culture is human first, right? Otherwise, there are companies, they are very hostile and poisonous cultures. I'm not telling they cannot exist. There are, but I'm telling you sustainable organization, be human first. In our organization term, we call KRA. And obviously, you need to make sure you add value to your customer. If you are not customer centric, you cannot do that. In our organization, we call that customer centric, right? As Prasad said, AI plus or whatever thing, you cannot predict people because people are the most volatile. So that's why the organizations are agile organizations, being adapting to the changes, both human mindset and many other environmental things. So you have to have an agile organization, and you guys need to be really responsible to deliver what you promise to all stakeholders. And you need to have a culture which really value particular domain intelligence as well as human relationship intelligence. And then you can have your other add-on cultural elements. I mentioned to you some of the elements, and in our organization, we really valued being a non-hierarchical. So we included that. And then we wanted to have a global organization. We included that also. And we built this organization purely for digital product engineering breakthroughs. And we tag our organization as thinking breakthrough. And we define our mission statement as distance and difference irrelevant between intelligent people. So that's how we flock all these people together. Now you see, right? Sorry, I have to use my own experience, not to promote Nagarro or anything, but that's the easiest for what is if your culture values natural valuable things in that culture, it is possible for you to find another valuable partner for marriage, right? If you cannot find a very trustworthy person, you being untrustworthy, that never happens. So that marriage is going to fail. So if you are really valuable person, when you get close to unvaluable person, you can easily smell. So I'm going to tell you once again, values is a very interesting story. People who have a really high values, I'm talking about human values, they can smell others who doesn't have that human values, but not the other way around. So with that, I think let's conclude. I think we are almost at the end of our time period. And Randula, you want to add any final couple of minutes? You want to add any final word?
I think
Prasad?
you've said it all, Sankalpa. Very happy to have done this session, and I think very diverse views coming from Prasad and Sankalpa yourself. I'm taking a lot away with me as well, and I hope it was useful to the audience as well.
Thank you, Randula. Prasad?
Thank you, Sankar. That's it.
Okay. Over to you, Professor Rohan. So we managed to finish it on time.
Thank you very much, Sankalpa, Randula, and Prasad. That was truly inspirational. I think the participants, they have got something they did not expect to have in this session, because probably this is something we do not really probably touch in Entrepreneurship 101, the basic course, right? But you guys took it into a very deep dive, I think. Really good for the participants. For example, now this is all about person-to-person interaction, right? Now you can forget about your texting, your production, your sales. You have to get the first thing first, right? How to deal with your team members, your subordinates, company culture. So you have to be a really good human being if you want to run a company. So that is the highlight of the topic today. And then also details, you three guys very clearly point it out. So I encourage our participants, probably this is not something you can digest online, this 1.5 hour session. The video will be up on the web tonight or latest tomorrow morning. I really request you guys to review it a couple of times and make your own notes, right? As an entrepreneur, as a person who is leading a business out of a invention, probably, right? What are the things you need to have in you? So you need to build these qualities in you if you want to be a successful businessman, right? So I'm really happy to experience, to hear whatever you said, Sankalpa, Randula, and Prasad. That was really eye-opening to everybody, including myself. So I think there are a lot of thank yous coming up. So pretty obvious. I think they are really happy participants. This is what we expect as organizers at NIA and University of Moratuwa. So all the questions have been answered. I think it was a very, very successful session today. So I thank you, all three of you, Prasad, Randula, and Sankalpa, for sharing your very, very wealthy experience, knowledge with all of us. And I think this will go a long way. Who knows? Some of these participants who are here today, in 5 years down the line, they will emerge as successful entrepreneurs, businessmen, and they will tell to the world that we listened to this particular lecture on this particular day, and it was mind-opening for me, right, and eye-opening for me, and that was my starting point. And we would like to hear that kind of stories down the road. All right, with that, we are out of time for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today, and I hope to see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.